Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the pleasure of being joined by Matt, Breeders' Cup Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm terrific. I've got my pre-entered PPs printed out, and I'm ready to roll.
The pre-entries came in. They were announced yesterday, and Matt, it's like Christmas for us horse racing fans. Let's jump right into this Breeders' Cup coverage. We're brought to you today, of course, by Keeneland Select, and we're going to start with one of the biggest races at Keeneland this weekend. It's the Breeders' Cup Sprint, Matt. And I don't think Private Zone or Runhappy could be coming into this race any more impressively.
Breeders' Cup Sprint is setting up to be one of the best races on the card. And for me, it's always a race that I enjoy every Breeders' Cup weekend. With the amazingly talented Runhappy and Private Zone, the veteran who's probably at his best. And I love the way you described Private Zone to me just the other day, Brian, when you said Private Zone was a beast.
He's a beast, Matt. Runhappy is some sort of crazy talent. Just amazing what Runhappy has pulled off this summer. Of course, we've known about him since his maiden debut score, which was crazy at Turfway Park last December. Private Zone is 6 years old. He's always been good, but I don't think he's ever been this good. Matt, both of them are working great. There is one issue, though. There's other speed in the race, and both of these horses like to have the front end. The fur will fly, my friend. I don't know how fast this race is going to be run early, but does it set up for a closer?
I guess in handicapping theory, it does. And there certainly has already been a lot of talk about a pace collapse in the race, and that usually applies. But I don't know if that applies when you're talking about the talent of Private Zone and Runhappy. These are two horses that are fast and can keep going fast. And yeah, there might be some other fast horses in the race, but I don't think they're going to keep up with these two. And maybe they can't withstand their speed, but I don't have a question about Runhappy and Private Zone carrying their speed the whole race, or at least for sure, one of them's going to.
6 furlongs, yeah. Sometimes talent just wins out. I don't know. This is setting up a little bit as a crazy speed duel. Private Zone is a tough horse. He is very difficult to get by. You almost have to swoop by him. I don't know if he's going to let any horse by him, even with the talent of Runhappy. I like Private Zone by about this much better than Runhappy right now, just on experience and toughness, Matt. But it really is setting up as a wonderful race. It is bringing other horses in. Wild Dude, Saludos Amigos. And, you know, one horse I hate to have on my ticket because he rarely wins, but I have to have him in the ticket in this one. And that's Kobe's Back, who has a nice win at Keeneland this year. Granted, it was 7 furlongs, but he has a real sprinter's closing kick. And if they're running 43 like I think they are, Kobe's Back becomes just a little bit interesting for me.
Well, that's true, Brian. And I kind of like Runhappy just a little bit more than Private Zone. I think she's a freak. This is a battle of the beast versus the freak. And I'm going to get freaky and go with Runhappy.
He's going to get freaky, ladies and gentlemen, batten down the hatches. That's the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Matt, we have 6 more races to talk about. Let's go. Let's shift gears to Friday's headliner. And, of course, that's the ladies in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I looked at it. I looked at it again in depth last night, and there's about 9 that I like best.
Yeah, nothing in my mind changes about this group. There's a whole bunch of them that have run well this year, and any one of them is capable of winning the distaff. It's almost an all-button race for me if you're playing the Pick 4, which covers all 4 of the Breeders' Cup races on that first Friday of the weekend. A lot of talent. None of them have repeated that much. Can Wedding Toast do her thing in Kentucky? All those questions are out there. It's going to be a great race.
Kieran McLaughlin's had an absolutely astounding second half of the year. His horses are just running mad, and Wedding Toast probably deserves favoritism off her Belmont form. Now we got 2 turns at Keeneland. It's quite different than 1 turn at Belmont. Plus, My Sweet Addiction, Yahilwa, maybe even Stop Charging Maria, there is more speed than she's seen all year. So personally, I'm going to try to, as a wagerer, I'm going to try to beat Wedding Toast. I think Sheer Drama might be the one to beat. We're taking a look at the Personal Ensign, where she wore down some good horses like Untappable. Stop Charging Maria, and closing late in that race was Got Lucky, who of course came back with a nice win in the Spinster. We got to talk about these older mares. You like Sheer Drama? You like Got Lucky? Has Got Lucky gotten this good?
Yeah, and I think you described the Personal Ensign just right, Brian. Sheer Drama wore him down, and I mean that the Personal Ensign wasn't a super impressive race, but maybe that's all you need in this group with the distaff. You just get in the right conditions, get in the right trip, and just being the one that's going to get up at the wire. I can't imagine that anybody's going to win this race by a big margin.
No, you wouldn't think so. And maybe of those, Sheer the best. I will mention that Stop Charging Marie is not looking good on this replay in the Personal Ensign. But don't forget, she's the favorite that day. She likes to win, and maybe she didn't want to be in the lead. Another one to fear. Untappable's the defending champion. Got Lucky. If there is a real late rally, Got Lucky's the most likely to do it. The 3-year-olds are awfully good, Matt. We haven't even touched on I'm a Chatterbox, the season she's had. Two daughters of Curlin are very impressive young fillies who could pop up. Carolina that is, and Stellar Wind. So yeah, wide open, good betting race if you can land on one that you like best.
Yeah, it's going to be a spreading race, and no one's going to be a big favorite. It's going to be a fun race.
Speaking of spreading races, or maybe not spreading races, how about the Breeders' Cup Turf? Because we might have the best turf horse in the world. I guess that's pretty. I don't need to guess. Golden Horn has been the best turf horse in the world this year. 7 wins, 1 second in his life. Most of that this year, racking up Group 1s. And as a top 3-year-old, he really took it to the best older horses in Europe in the ARC recently. We're going to watch the ARC, Matt. Golden Horn, what does he need to be to win the Breeders' Cup Turf? 80 or 90%?
That may be true, but keeping in mind, the ARC was just a couple weeks ago. It is a long trip across the pond, and Golden Horn hasn't done that. So there's all those questions to throw in. But he's such an amazing horse to beat that field that you've described the ARC, Brian, as the premier, the best turf race in the world at any time. And not just that race. He's won so many races so well. But there are question marks. Historically, I know we're not talking about Golden Horns, but historically, the winner of the ARC has not done well in Breeders' Cup Turf. It's the also-rans in the ARC that have done very well in the Breeders' Cup Turf. But again, we're talking about Golden Horn here, and you and I have got our favorite Americans in the race, and Golden Horn in there, it's come up tough for them.
Yeah, it's come up tough for them. Golden Horn, yeah, just from a pure class standpoint, does stand over this field. He'll be the deserving favorite. But hey, Matt, if Dancing Brave can get beat, other top horses coming from the ARC can beat, it can happen again. You never know when they come across the country. Keeneland is certainly different than some of the racetracks he's run at before. Found, you mentioned ARC. ARC also ran. Found had some trouble in the ARC, so she was only in the middle of the field. But this is a very talented 3-year-old filly who's run nothing but good races this year. So if she's the Euro that runs best, she is also good enough to win the Breeders' Cup Turf.
Yeah, and she's an Aidan O'Brien, right, Brian?
She's an Aidan O'Brien. We always watch out for the Aidan O'Briens, and Found has proved her class over the entire year in Europe. Now let's talk some of the top Americans, Matt. You know I've been following the Pizza Man for about 3 years, and what a consistent, versatile turf horse he is. He's an Illinois bred, folks, as you probably know, and he's coming off a great prep at Keeneland in the short mile race, the Grade 1 mile, the $1 Million Mile there, the Shadwell, where he just missed Grand Arch. He's got a real shot. I think you want to mention Big Blue Kitten, Twilight Eclipse, Slumber. Who's your favorite American, Matt? You know mine is the Pizza Man.
Well, I like both the Pizza Man and Big Blue Kitten. You know, last year I was all about main sequence, holding up the American flag. But this is Golden Horn. You'll get an even better price on the Pizza Man now with Golden Horn in there. So I'll use the Americans in there in the horizontal wagering.
Yeah, and yeah, with the odds, if Golden Horn's even money and the Pizza Man is 5-1, that makes it a whole lot easier to play the Pizza Man for me. Matt, let's stick with the turf, and I think the Breeders' Cup Mile is always a fun race. And now we have a really nice mix of Euros. The Euros are deep in here against the Americans. My top two right now, Matt, are two females, Esoterique and Tepin.
Yeah, when I looked at the PPs and saw those Europeans, my reaction was just wow. I mean, I can't remember, a collective group of Euros in the mile as strong as this bunch in there. I know Goldakova was phenomenal all those years, but with Esoterique and Impassable, and don't forget last year's winter, Caracante, and all the way down, this is just a stellar group of Euros.
Yeah, Karakantai was a horse I bet last year. He's had two races. He's getting better this year. It's certainly dangerous, but make believe a really nice French 3-year-old from Andre Fabre. Time test. English 3-year-olds haven't had a great English colts haven't had a great history in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but he is a very classy miler. But let's talk about the Americans, Matt, because they certainly have a real chance in here. And as good as Tepin has been all year, I think we're showing the first lady here. As good as she's been all year, still, that was a revelation what she did in the Grade 1 First Lady against fillies at Keeneland.
Yeah, her performance in the First Lady coming down the stretch, she just leaves that field in her dust. And let me tell you what, she's going to need to be that good and maybe even a little better to handle this group of Euros. I don't remember a group of Euros in a particular race as strong as this. And you
Yeah,
got Andre Fabre with Esoterique and with Make Believe. He's won 4 Breeders' Cup races. He of the famous Breeders' Cup upset with Arkang at the 136-1 in the Classic.
Yeah, well, Andre Fabre is one of the top trainers in the world. He has been for a long time, and yeah, he's high in both of these horses who are coming. He's coming to win it, Matt, for sure. But Tepin, if she repeats that race in the First Lady, I think she has a big chance. And the same reason we talked about Golden Horn a little bit, Euros are a little less likely to run their 100% best race than horses that have been over here the whole time. Other horses, I think Grand Arch has just been a nice horse for a long time, and now the 4-star Dave and the Shadwell Turf Mile kind of proved how good he's going and how good he really is. And I tell you, another horse in that race, Matt, that quietly ran a very good third behind Grand Arch and the Pizza Man was Tourist. And Tourist will be my long shot in the Breeders' Cup Mile. That was only his second start of the year. I think he's a big talent for Bill Mott. So I'm going to try Tourist a little bit in my exotics.
Yeah, I mean, top to bottom, the Turf Mile is one of the best races of the weekend.
Top to bottom, very deep. Maybe not so much in the juvenile fillies this year, Matt. We really have a nice matchup in the juvenile fillies. And as a huge Rachel Alexandra fan, it's a little hard for me to say this, but I think Songbird is one of the most likely winners of the Breeders' Cup races this year. I think she's just been sensational. Also, like Rachel Alexandra, a daughter of Medaglia Dora, she's been awesome. And she's looked awesome in her workouts. She's got a big, giant stride for a 2-year-old filly. She might be ahead of her time in the juvenile fillies.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way you do about Rachel Valentina, and yeah, I agree. Maybe Strongbird has a little bit of an edge right now, but there are factors, the shipping, the type of track. I think the Keeneland surface is maybe a little bit more like what Rachel's Valentina has been running on. Both quality horses, but I think Nickname is another horse who we should throw the name out. She ran a really terrific race in the Frisette and got some talent also. Maybe not quite up to those two, but I like Nickname a little bit also.
Matt, we're throwing in the spin away right now because I think maybe if anybody does knock off Songbird, it's the two horses who showed that rally. You made a good point about the track maybe being a little bit more Saratoga-like than Santa Anita-like at Keeneland. So if there is some speed for Songbird and she does show any vulnerability, these two horses who ran a really terrific race in the Spinaway, Tap to It, Rachel's Valentina, only their second race respectively each, and now they've been freshened a little bit, and they should be ready for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. And yeah, they're ones that are going to be running a little bit late. You mentioned Nickname, who ran to make it the slop while winning the Frizette. If she can repeat that, she's a threat. And I think you got to mention Landover Sea, who's been rallying behind Songbird a little bit as another potential horse in the juvenile fillies.
Yeah, again, it's an East versus West matchup, which adds a little spice to the juvenile event. So another race to look forward to.
Spice is nice, Matt. Let's jump right into the older mares. We're going to talk about the filly and mare turf next. Stephanie's Kitten won a Breeders' Cup race 4 years ago, Matt. There's never been a horse who's won a Breeders' Cup race 4 years apart. She's only run the Breeders' Cup twice, a winner as a juvenile, and then last year she was a rallying second today at the Spa. Can Stephanie's Kitten defend America's honor in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf?
I don't know, Brian. The Euros come up pretty strong in this race also with Legatissimo, another terrific. You do
That's
these
easy for you to say.
Yeah, you do those foreign horses a lot better than I do. I was going to defer to you on that pronunciation, but that's an all grade one horse in the races that she's been running in, and terrific horse. You got another Andre Frey horse in there, Miss France. Tough Euro group again. We got Secret Gesture in there, who got disqualified from the Beverly D after finishing first in that race. So I think it's going to be tough for Stephanie's Kitten, but you can never count out those Chad Brown runners on the turf.
Yeah, Stephanie's Kitten's been a really nice mare now for 5 seasons. Good for her. I think she's got a shot. If things fall her way, she'll need a little pace and uncoil her best rally, but certainly she's in with a chance. But unfortunately, American race fans, yeah, I agree with Matt. I think the Euros kind of have an edge in here. This might be the Euros' strongest race of all. The mile certainly was up there. Golden Horn, of course. But Legatissimo, now I'm going to struggle with that name. Legatissimo is maybe the best 3-year-old filly in all of Europe. She's right up there with Found. She's been very consistent this year. And in her last 2 races, the Nassau, which I think we're showing, and the Matron, she really dominated. A super filly Danehill dancer. She's the one to beat for sure. But yeah, you mentioned a bunch. If Impassable goes in this race, Miss France is tough. Talmada ran big at Woodbine recently. So yeah, Queen's Jewel may have needed the last race. She's very talented. Secret Gesture, of course, has already come over twice and done well. The Euros are loaded. I think we need to speak about the Chilean mare, though, too, Matt, because Desita, now a Chad Brown mare, really ran a huge race in her lone American start.
Yeah, and Chad Brown is really good at bringing those horses to North American tracks and getting them ready to run. And yeah, her first race was very impressive, which means she probably will get better. And again, she's got a shot.
She's got a shot. She nailed Tepin that day. It was a little longer than Tepin's favorite distance of a mile, but she nailed her at Saratoga in really late running, explosive fashion. So Desita is another one in with a chance. Legatissimo, Matt. Legatissimo is the one to beat, though. I think we agree.
I got it. Legatissimo.
There we go. Filly and mares. Let's go from the turf to the sprint, Matt. And you will not believe who my top pick in there. I'm going to hold it off on it. But who do you like in the filly and mare sprint?
Well, I think that La Verdad is the fastest horse in the race. But, you know, hearing Linda Rice talk this morning, she's making it sound like we're not sure where La Verdad is going to run, because La Verdad is the fastest horse, but 7 furlongs is pushing the distance limit for La Verdad for sure. Hasn't tried the distance a lot of times. Certainly she's best at 6 and 6.5. So Linda Rice is throwing out the idea of the 6 furlongs for the boys. Yeah, I don't know if that's a great idea because we already talked about how good Private Zone and Runhappy are. So I like La Verdad's speed. I still feel like they're going to have to catch her, and maybe she can stretch it to 7 furlongs. But there's other fast horses in there, but I think she's the fastest.
Matt, this is a race that I can't wait to use my Keeneland Select account to bet because no, La Verdad has no shot, Matt. I'm sorry to say she's not even the fastest filly in the race. We know Stone-tastic is faster than La Verdad. Stone-tastic from the Kelly Green barn is a blur. If La Verdad tries to go with her at 7 furlongs, forget it for La Verdad. Stone-tastic, I could say much the same that you did about La Verdad, though. At 7 furlongs, it's going to be tough. You know who I like, Matt? I'll give you a hint. She hasn't run in 12 months. Artemis
Ah,
Agritera is a 7 furlong horse. She's got the talent. She's got the class. Michael Hushin, one of my favorite trainers. She runs well fresh. I think she can be in the middle of the pack, and I think she can make an explosive move in her first start in a year. Artemis Agritera, maybe we get 10 to 1. I can't wait to bet her off that long layoff. Sprinters can do it easier than distance horses. I like Artemis Agritera in the filly and mare sprint.
well, and she certainly is well rested. And Brian, you didn't mention that this is going to be her 3rd Breeders' Cup start. So she's got the Breeders' Cup experience. And hey, I love a closer in sprint races. Always have. This 7 furlong distance for the fillies and mares is makes it a multi-dimensional race. Makes it a race where the closers have a better chance than, as we talked about with the boys, where they're fast but they can carry that speed. The 6 furlongs, it's a lot tougher to do it for 7 furlongs. I think I cashed a good ticket more than a year ago. The last time Artemis ran at Saratoga.
Yeah, that might have been the ballerina where she
Yes.
just smoked a good field at 7 furlongs. That's what I'm looking for as a performance here in the filly mare sprint. Matt, we didn't even mention Cavordine, who I think deserves to be the favorite. Very nice 3-year-old. She can also rally. She's a real threat for sure. Wavell Avenue for Chad Brown may be getting this good, and also a horse that should be running late. And I think it's going to set up for the horses running late, 7 furlongs with a ton of speed.
Yeah, and Dame Dorothy, who isn't in great form right now, but has done her best running at 7 furlongs.
Agreed, Matt. Matt, what a great show. We did 7 races here. Again, we're brought to you by Keeneland Select. Thank you for sponsoring. Thank you, Ember Marr, our wonderful producer, Matt. And thank you for joining me for Breeders' Cup Preview number 2 on HorseCenter.
It's my pleasure, Brian, and we'll be back 2 more times next week when we'll start talking a little bit more the nitty-gritty. We'll start talking about some of our favorite horses. We'll start talking about betting strategies as we get closer to the big weekend. I'm going to start getting my suitcase out of the closet so I can get ready to join you in Louisville, in Horse Racing Nation headquarters, and certainly in Lexington for the big weekend.
Matt, I can't wait. We got 2 fun shows next week. Join us next week, folks. Thanks for watching.